Greetings once again, my fellow Star Trek fans. I'd like to welcome you to yet another video. This one is going to be a little bit somber. It's going to be not a very cheerful video. This video is actually a list of some of the beloved Star Trek characters who are no longer with us. Some of the names are well known, and some of them may surprise you, because some of them surprised me. I actually had seen this list off of StarTrek.com, and I had seen some of the people that had passed, and some of the names caught me by surprise. I know there were a lot of people missing from this list, and maybe I'll do that'll be in the next video to update, but these are the ones in this list that kind of, like I said, some of them surprised me that they had gone, and some of the names you'll obviously recognize. Marjol Barrett Roddenberry. Then billed as Marjol Barrett, the raven-haired Marjol Barrett Roddenberry played the commanding #1 in The Cage, the first pilot for Star Trek the original series. On its way to network approval, the show and Barrett, Roddenberry's character, went through numerous revisions. By the time the original series made it to air, the actress was a blonde Christine Chapel, a capable nurse who nonetheless, and unlike #1, was rarely seen on the bridge. In 1969, the star married Star Trek creator Gene Roddenberry and became known as the First Lady of Star Trek. Barrett Roddenberry would play roles in the first 6 live-action Star Trek series and a total of 5 Star Trek films. She also appeared in Star Trek The Next Generation and Star Trek Deep Space Nine as Lwaxana Troi, Deanna's eccentric mother. Most often, she was heard as the voice of the starship computers. Barrett Roddenberry died on December 18, 2008, and she was 76 years old. James Doohan. If James Doohan didn't do it all, he sure tried. A radio performer, writer, D-Day vet, and a developer of the Klingon dialect is first heard in Star Trek The Motion Picture. Doohan is best known for his work as Chief Engineer Montgomery Scott, Scotty, in Star Trek the original series. Doohan went on to play Scotty in 7 Star Trek films and an episode of Star Trek The Next Generation. He also voiced the character, along with others, in Star Trek the Animated Series. Engineers the world over looked to Doohan's dedicated Scotty as a role model, and Doohan himself was awarded an honorary degree by the Milwaukee School of Engineering. James Doohan died on July 20th, 2005, and he was 85 years old. DeForest Kelley. As the Star Trek universe's original Dr. Leonard H. Bones McCoy, DeForest Kelley was a beloved member of the franchise family. Once known to TV viewers for his work in westerns, Kelley didn't look back after he boarded Star Trek the original series. The actor played the USS Enterprise's chief medical officer for more than 25 years, from the original series to Star Trek the Animated Series to the first 6 Star Trek movies. He even appeared as a 137-year-old version of his character in the very first Star Trek The Next Generation episode, Encounter at Farpoint. Kelley took great pride that his dedicated but sometimes gruff TV doctor inspired so many Star Trek fans to become real physicians. DeForest Kelley died on June 11, 1999. He was 79 years old. Nichelle Nichols. Nichelle Nichols was a trailblazer whose impact as Lieutenant Uhura, a black woman serving a crucial role aboard the bridge of the USS Enterprise, perhaps can never be fully measured. In 1966, when Nichols Uhura first appeared on the TV screens via Star Trek the original series, racial segregation policies had been banned in the United States for little more than 2 years. When Nichols, ready to return to the theater after the original series' first season, had a chance meeting with Dr. Martin Luther King and mentioned she was leaving the show, the civil rights leader implored her to stay. When we see you, we see ourselves. And we see ourselves as intelligent and beautiful and proud, King told her. Nichols would recount. Nichols stayed on, and her Uhura thrived. Nichols would later appear as Uhura in the first 6 Star Trek big screen adventures, and lend her voice to Star Trek the Animated Series as well. Nichols' gray space age role arguably came at NASA when they asked her to help in the next generation of scientists, engineers, and astronauts for the agency's space shuttle program. Nichols led a campaign that recruited more than 8,000 astronauts, some of whom became the first Black, Asian, and Latino men and women to fly in space, and many of whom had been inspired to take wing by Nichols' Uhura. Efforts were immortalized in a documentary, Women in Motion. Nichelle Nichols died on July 30th, 2022. She was 89 years old. Leonard Nimoy. Leonard Nimoy's first autobiography was called I Am Not Spock, but the title of his second affirmed what Star Trek fans had long known. It was titled I Am Spock. For nearly 50 years, from the original 1964 Star Trek pilot The Cage, through Star Trek the Original Series, to several big-screen Trek adventures, including the Kelvin timeline, World of 2009's, Star Trek 2013's Star Trek Into Darkness, Nimoy portrayed a version of himself half-human and half-Vulcan, Starfleet legend that he was. As the original Mr. Spock, Nimoy helped the franchise establish and delve into one of its core questions: what does it mean to be human? Forging a successful career behind the camera as well in the 1980s, Nimoy directed 2 Star Trek films, Star Trek III The Search for Spock, and a box office blockbuster, Star Trek IV The Voyage Home. He was helmed the hit comedy 3 Men and a Baby. Nimoy died February 27, 2015. He was 83 years old. Ricardo Montalban. Ricardo Montalban was a Star Trek franchise original Khan Noonien Singh. Montalban first played the hyper-intelligent, ruthless augment in a Star Trek the Original Series episode titled Space Seed. He cemented Khan's reputation as perhaps Star Trek's greatest villain when he took the role to the big screen in Star Trek II The Wrath of Khan. Long before Star Trek, Montalban was a screen star in his native Mexico. He arrived in Hollywood in the late 1940s and continued working there until the 2000s. His considerable list of credits include the original hit TV version of Fantasy Island. This show he starred as a mysterious, white suit-clad Mr. Rourke. He played grandfather in 2 Spy Kids films. Montalban died on January 14, 2009. He was 88 years old. Christopher Plummer. In an acclaimed career that spanned some 65 years and encompassed stage, screen, and television work, the Academy Award-winning Plummer is probably best known for playing Captain Von Trapp in the classic movie musical The Sound of Music. But as the villainous Klingon General Chang in Star Trek VI The Undiscovered Country, Plummer also held a special place in the Star Trek universe. In addition to the Oscar-acclaimed The Age of 82 for the film Beginners, Plummer won 2 Emmys and 2 Tonys. Christopher Plummer died February 5, 2021. He was 91 years old. Rene Auberjonois. Whether he was getting into spats with Quark or rejecting players from the infamous Holosuite baseball game, Odo endeared himself to Star Trek Deep Space Nine series fans. The acclaimed actor who brought the challenging chief of security to life, Auberjonois played Odo for Deep Space Nine's entire 7-season run. Bookending Deep Space Nine, the Tony Award-winning actor was a series regular in the shows Benson and Boston Legal. In film, he played Father Mulcahy in Robert Altman's 1970 big screen version of MASH. Rene Auberjonois died on December 8, 2019. He was 79 years old. Aaron Eisenberg. The first time we meet Aaron Eisenberg's recurring character on Star Trek Deep Space Nine, Nog is stealing supplies from the Promenade. By the end of the series, Nog is the first Ferengi to join Starfleet, and a storied soldier in a Dominion war. Eisenberg's earnest performance gave audiences a Ferengi who, not all, was profit-driven. Comic relief character, but instead a fully realized emotional being with ambitions for the greater good. Eisenberg guest starred in several other TV shows, including The Wonder Years, Tales from the Crypt, with Deep Space Nine co-star Cirroc Lofton, who played Jake Sisko. Eisenberg launched the DS9 rewatch podcast, The Seventh Rule. Born with one partially functioning kidney, Eisenberg received multiple kidney transplants before succumbing to kidney failure and died on September 21st, 2019. He was 50 years old. Anton Yelchin. As a child actor, Anton Yelchin got his big break opposite Anthony Hopkins in the 2001 film Hearts in Atlantis. The Russian-born actor would continue to work steadily through the decade until he broke into the realm of Hollywood blockbusters by winning the role of Chekhov in J.J. Abrams' 2009 Star Trek reboot. In the film, simply titled Star Trek, Yelchin's enthusiasm and whimsical character made his Kelvin timeline version of Chekhov an audience favorite. Yelchin would reprise the role of Chekhov in Star Trek Into Darkness and Star Trek Beyond. The later film was released about a month after the 27-year-old Yelchin lost his life in a car accident at his home. He died on June 19, 2006. Star Trek Beyond was dedicated to his memory. Jeffrey Hunter. As the original captain, Christopher Pike, Jeffrey Hunter helmed the bridge of the USS Enterprise in the first pilot for Star Trek The Original Series. When NBC requested a second pilot, Hunter declined to return to the project, choosing instead to focus on his film career. The unsold pilot, The Cage, was later used in the original series two-parter, The Menagerie. In it, disfigured Pike played a heavily made-up Sean Kenny. Watches footage of his younger self. Hunter is best known for movie buffs as the courageous nephew to John Wayne's Civil War vet in the Western classic The Searchers. Jeffrey Hunter died on May 27, 1969. He was 42 years old. Booker Bradshaw. Booker Bradshaw played on the USS Enterprise Dr. M'Benga, the 2 episodes of Star Trek The Original Series. In one of them, A Private Little War, Bradshaw's character was forced to slap Spock repeatedly and shockingly in order to help save the wounded Vulcan and let him recover. Though Bradshaw studied at London's Royal Academy of Dramatic Art and acted in many films and TV series, he was also noted for Motown Records executive as an accomplished screenwriter who penned episodes of TV series Columbo and Planet of the Apes. Booker Bradshaw died on April 1, 2003. He was 62 years old. Roger C. Carmel. Roger C. Carmel introduced Star Trek audiences to Harry Mudd. Though he played the con man in just 2 episodes of Star Trek The Original Series, Mudd's Women and I, Mudd, his portrayal was so indelible that the original series network home NBC was said to have considered giving the character his own spin-off series. Besides his work on Star Trek, Carmel acted on Broadway and played in 1960s Batman TV battle Colonel Gum and voiced several characters in the 1980s era Transformers animated franchise. Roger C. Carmel died on November 11, 1986. He was 54 years old. Mark Lenard. Mark Lenard isn't just part of Star Trek history. Over the course of the Star Trek career, he made history by portraying a Klingon, a Romulan, and a Vulcan. The actor made his Star Trek debut as a Romulan commander in a Star Trek The Original Series episode Balance of Terror. He later achieved Klingon captain status in Star Trek The Motion Picture. But it was in the original series episode Journey to Babel that Leonard arguably found his true Star Trek calling as Ambassador Sarek, Mr. Spock's father. The actor would go on to appear as Sarek in 3 Star Trek movies and 2 episodes of Star Trek The Next Generation. Outside of Star Trek, Leonard appeared in numerous movies and TV shows, including several episodes of the original Mission Impossible TV series. His co-star in the Mission Impossible episode The Rebel, none other than Leonard Nimoy, portrayed the portrayer of Leonard's TV son, Spock. Mark Lenard died on November 22, 1966. He was 72 years old. Grace Lee Whitney. Grace Lee Whitney played Yeoman Janice Rand in the first season of Star Trek The Original Series. According to Whitney, her role came to an end after 8 episodes because producers got scared after watching her character interact with William Shatner's Kirk. We have to remove her because Kirk is going to look like he's cheating when he falls in love with her. With other women as well on other planets, Rand once told StarTrek.com of the producer's mindset. But Whitney and Rand would not be gone from the Star Trek universe forever. Whitney reprised her original series character in Star Trek The Motion Picture and in Star Trek IV: Voyage Home, as well as Star Trek Voyager episode Flashback. Whitney appeared in 2 additional films, though not as Janice Rand. Grace Lee Whitney died on May 1st, 2015. She was 85 years old. Jane Wyatt. Best known as matriarch Margaret Anderson in the classic nuclear family sitcom Father Knows Best, 3-time Emmy Award winner Jane Wyatt added another maternal role to her resume when she played Spock's human mother, Amanda Grayson, in the Star Trek The Original Series episode Journey to Babel. Wyatt appeared opposite Mark Lenard as Spock's Vulcan father in the Season 2 tale, and also as Star Trek IV: The Voyage Home. Jane Wyatt died on October 20th, 2006. She was 96 years old. Persis Khambatta. Former Miss India, Persis Khambatta joined the Star Trek franchise in 1977 for the planned series Star Trek Phase 2. When the unrealized project morphed into a feature film, Khambatta remained on board as a Delta Navigator, Lieutenant Ailila. Though the newcomer among the cast of returning Star Trek The Original Series favorites, Khambatta saw her strikingly bald visage. Her head was shaved for the role, made central to the Star Trek The Motion Picture campaign, a behemoth promotional effort on behalf of what was, at the time, the most expensive Hollywood picture ever made. After Star Trek, Khambatta played a villain in 1981 Sylvester Stallone film Nighthawks. The Bombay-born star also wrote and published a coffee table book, Pride of India, which featured several other colleagues within the Indian model industry. Persis Khambatta died on August 18, 1998. She was 49 years old. Kirstie Alley. In this memoir, writer-director Nicholas Meyer remembered Kirstie Alley as a girl from Wichita with striking blue-gray eyes, who said she was fixated on Mr. Spock. Meyer would cast Alley in Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan. He chose her to play Saavik, a Vulcan, of course. Job marked the actress' first major screen role. And though Alley didn't reprise Saavik in Star Trek III: The Search for Spock, her career was on its way in 1987. Alley joined the cast of Cheers and became a household name. She would go on to win 2 career Emmys and headline her own series, including the 1990s sitcom Veronica's Closet. Kirstie Alley died December 5th, 2022. She was 71 years old. Merritt Buttrick. In In 1982, Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan. In 1984, Star Trek III, The Search for Spock. Merritt Buttrick played Captain Kirk's courageous but doomed son, David Marcus. Later, Buttrick popped up in the Trek universe as T'Jon, a cargo vessel captain in the Star Trek The Next Generation episode, Symbiosis. Buttrick was also known for his portrayal of the new wave teen, Johnny Slash, of the 1980s high school sitcom Square Pegs, starring Sarah Jessica Parker. Buttrick died on March 17, 1989. He was 29 years old. David Huddleston. In the Star Trek The Next Generation episode, Emergence, David Huddleston plays a chatty, holographic conductor who can't get enough of his train duties. His character's cheerful byplay with the brooding Worf, played by Michael Dorn, is as much fun as you'll enjoy on all the Star Trek universe. Beyond his stint on Star Trek The Next Generation, Huddleston is best known for playing the title character in Joel and Ethan's Coen The Big Lebowski, and for his hilarious turn as Mayor Olson Johnson in the Mel Brooks comedy classic Blazing Saddles. David Huddleston died on August 2, 2016. He was 85 years old. Paul Sorvino. In the Star Trek The Next Generation episode Homeward, illustrious actor Paul Sorvino guest stars as Nikolai Rosenko, cultural observer and Worf's adopted brother, who breaks the Prime Directive in order to save the Brolins on Brawl 2. Sorvino is perhaps best remembered for playing mobster Paul Serico in Goodfeathers, and for laying down the law in NYPD Sergeant Phil Cerita in seasons 2 through 3 of Law and Order. To me, he'll always be Paulie from Goodfellas. Paul Sorvino died on July 25, 2022. He was 83 years old. David Warner. Renowned actor David Warner was a Swiss Army knife for Star Trek, appearing as the Federation representative St. John Talbot in Star Trek V, The Final Frontier, the Klingon Chancellor Gorkon in Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country, and the Cardassian Gul Madrid in the Star Trek The Next Generation two-part episode Chain of Command. There are 4 lights! Warner's prolific career began on stage, leading him to starring roles on London's West End, and later in his career Broadway, and in Hollywood he appeared in the movie Titanic, the original version of The Omen, Tron, and many, many more films and TV shows. David Warner died on July 24, 2022. He was 80 years old. Louise Fletcher. On Star Trek Deep Space Nine, Louise Fletcher appeared in 14 episodes as Win Adami, a Bajoran spiritual leader known as Kai. Her character was an arrogant leader and often clashed with Captain Benjamin Sisko. Outside of the Star Trek universe, Fletcher is known best for playing the wretched Nurse Ratched in 1975 film One Flew Over the Cuckoo Nest, a role that brought her Best Actress Academy Award. Louise Fletcher died on September 23, 2022. She was 88 years old. Barry Jenner. Barry Jenner's film and restrained performance as Admiral William Ross helped bring the gravity of war to Star Trek Deep Space Nine. His recurring character appeared in 2 of the series' most impactful scenes, when Captain Sisko is awarded the Christopher Pike Medal of Valor, and when the treaty that ends the Dominion War is signed. In all, Jenner appeared in 12 Deep Space Nine episodes. Jenner also had recurring TV roles in Knots Landing, Dallas, and Family Matters. Barry Jenner died on August 9, 2016. He was 75 years old. Camille Savoia. Camille Savoia played Kai Opaka, spiritual leader in the Bajoran species. In Star Trek Deep Space Nine, Savoia appeared as the first ever Deep Space Nine episode Emissary, and then 3 episodes more through the series' first 4 seasons. Though Savoyla worked constantly in film and TV, her first love was a stage. She appeared in Broadway productions of the musicals Chicago and Nine. Camille Savola died on October 28, 2021. She was 71 years old. Michael Ansara. As Kang, Michael Ansara spanned the Star Trek universe. He played the regal Klingon warrior in one episode each of Star Trek The Original Series, and Star Trek Deep Space Nine, and Star Trek Voyager. Ansara also appeared as Giel, a Tavanian husband of Lwaxana Troi in Deep Space Nine episode The Muse. In addition to his Star Trek work, Ansara starred in 1950s TV westerns, proved the villainous voice of Mr. Freeze in Batman the Animated Series, and logged other credits to his name. Michael Ansara died on July 31st, 2013. He was 91. Leslie Jordan. Leslie Jordan was a beloved comedian who brought joy to everyone in stage productions, TV shows, and movies he appeared in. Jordan was arguably best known for his Emmy-winning role of Beverly Leslie, Karen's feisty rival in Will and Grace. The Star Trek universe was lucky to have Jordan guest star in the Star Trek Voyager episodes False Prophets. He played Karl, a Ferengi who uses a replicator to trick the Takarians into believing they're holy sages. Leslie Jordan died on October 24th, 2022. He was 67 years old. Annie Wersching. Annie Wersching's screen career was nearly bookended by Star Trek. Her first TV credit was in the Star Trek Enterprise Season 1 episode Oasis. Some of Wersching's final screen work came in Season 2 of the Star Trek Picard. There she played the formidable Borg Queen, a recurring role that saw her appear in 6 episodes. Outside of Star Trek, Wersching was known for playing Renee Walker in 24, Julia Brashear in Bosch, Leslie Dean on Marvel's Runaways, and for voicing and motion captioning Tess in the iconic video game The Last of Us. Annie Wersching died on January 29, 2023. She was 45 years old.